The farm means, of course, many things to me. It was one of my earliest representations of community, people that you're not related to, people working together on shared projects simply because they shared values. That was um, something I got to observe in a show don't tell kind of way. Um, During the camps, I got to see how animals were raised respectfully for meat, how farms worked a little bit. It was great exposure to that, and of course, where food comes from, how it's grown, and so on. So, yeah, those were my early lessons. And then as an older person, I just got to witness how one's roles could change and be different, and how I could contribute at different points in my life to, again, this big community project.
I remember reading so many books, Last Child in the Woods, all of these seminal books that were being published around the time that I was working here, and recognizing that what people were saying about child play and child exploration and children being in the woods wasn't just something, it was maybe everything.
I would say summer, where we could see like more kids come here and they each like interact like they never been here. It's their first time. They come here and they're so excited, and then by the end of the day they ask their parents, Mom, Dad, can I sign up next year? I want to come back here. So it's like they each are amazed.
I was in second grade or third grade, and it was my first time during the after school program, and we walked from the farm, from the school here, and like our task was to do the chicken chores. And I was remember being starkly against it at 7 years old, 8 years old, because chickens were scary. They were a lot like closer to my eye level back then. So I think it was like a power distribution thing. They just kind of scary looking. So I got in there and I got pecked in the leg, or I bumped my leg into something and I lost it. Started crying, tantrum, never coming back. This place sucks. And then I came back the next day and it was great. We did the rabbit chores and it was it was much nicer.
It's funny. I don't know. I mean, we have pictures of me literally in a wheelbarrow as a baby. So I've been here my whole life. I don't know that I have one particular memory, but it just is always has always just been a part of me and my childhood. And I have lots of different memories, but it's more feelings. Like this has always been a place where I felt really connected and really happy and learned so much and been able to kind of grow and explore lots of different things. I do have, I'm not sure how old I was, but when I was teaching with my mom, there was one day where we went into one of the far pastures to see one of the animals, and there were geese that we had not seen before, and we ended up getting chased all the way up the pasture, and we ended up they were closing in so fast that the adults were handing kids over the fence to their caregivers on the other side to just like try to get out as fast as we could. So that one will stay with me, I think, for a long time. But yeah, it was just my childhood. That's what I think of when I think of this.
When the farm first started, there was no office. There was stalls. One of the kids made an office in in what was in the old barn, in the barn
Yeah.
that is no longer. It was the first stall on the left, and I think we put a desk in there. George Ames came, I think we had hired a porta potty, and George Ames had to pay the bill, wrote the check on it, and the next thing we knew, he came and built an outhouse. So I mean, the farm really started from literally from the ground up.
When we were having a festival here, again, we started the festivals and Jane managed those, and those were also a good income source, and it was a huge community pull. Like people who could never come here would come here with their kids, and that was big. But anyway, there was a festival, and all of a sudden someone goes, "The pigs are loose!" And there's thousands of people here, and the pigs are running around the whole place. And they ended up over in the neighborhood behind us. And there we are, running with buckets of milk, trying to get the pigs in. And they all listened, and they all came in. But it always happens. Like, why do you stay in your pens all month long, and then today you decide to come out? You know?
One of the most impactful stories that I remember, it's just a personal experience, when my wife Pam and I decided to enroll our first child, Ruby, in the Forest Gnomes. It felt like a big decision because it was just sort of off the beaten path to put your child in an outdoor kindergarten program in the elements year-round as compared to the traditional opportunities. And being new parents, it felt a little bit, like a challenging decision. But as we researched it and talked to the staff, who were amazing, and once we made that decision, I had just an overwhelming feeling like I was doing the best possible thing for my child that I could ever do. And I still feel that in terms of, for sure we had to write a check for it, but it just, of all the checks we were writing, this one felt like the one that was the best, and the smartest and the wisest, with the greatest impact. And then we were able to see her go through the Gnomes program, and then my son Isaac as well. And those 4 or 5 years were tremendous, being a part of that community and having our kids out in the woods and just learning about the outdoors and just being free and being in a play-based environment without restrictions. And we cherished those nights when we'd go out in the woods with the families and have the Lantern Festival and the barbecues, and just be with like-minded people who were willing to take the risk of having their kids sort of break the norm. And the farm made it possible, and it's such an important part of our parenting.
Actually, I remembered it. I think it was one of my first couple of weeks there after school. It was this spectacular late September afternoon. Not a cloud in the sky, that blue, dry, 65 degrees. We were out at the other place, the Red Wing Farm. I think we were harvesting tomatoes, and there was just something clicked. And 50 years ago, and I remember that afternoon crystal clear. So that just right there set my path, something that I just really loved and wanted to continue.
Yeah, we tie it right back to birthing season. I was going on a walk around at like 6 p.m. to see if any of the goats were in labor. And one of them was, but unfortunately, Charlene was getting her hair dyed on the deck.
Yeah, I was up on the porch, and I had like the tin foils in my hair, getting my hair bleached. And I just saw Dylan running down the pasture walk and being like, "Give me your phone!" So I tossed it down to him, and I had to run out there with like the foils in my hair and assisted with the birth.
Yeah.
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 There's a really funny picture floating around somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun pictures of us in various states or various outfits with sheep birth.
Yeah.
I used my weekday work sweatshirt, company sweatshirt, as a after birth rag one time.
Yep.
That was funny. I think funny. Yeah.
I was at my friend's birthday party once, and I got a call from Dylan that one of the sheep was giving birth or starting to, so I left her birthday party to come help, and I was in this like pink dress and this fur coat, so I like ran over and I was just standing there waiting to help in my like party outfit.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly when Senator Paul Tsongas, a U.S. Senator from Massachusetts at that time, came up the river in a canoe to acknowledge the work of the farm in its solar work and use of federal funds locally to promote a really wonderful project. And he left with a farm kitten from our barn for one of his little ones. And we were very happy about that.
The more you spend time at the farm, the more stories bubble up and happen. But as you ask me about stories, the first thing that came to mind was being in the shack at maple sugaring time, just the smell of it. And not only the smell of the boiling off, but also of the hot dogs that we kept cooking on a fire on sticks. And the watching the way the syrup would change and the way it was tested. And it was small and it was crowded and it was close and it was absolutely wonderful. So to me, I felt that that part of the farm was quite remarkable, that we had a live maple sugaring operation. And then George would take off in the truck with some volunteers and buckets and his big sap tank and go up into all the trees that got tapped and then bring it back down. So that's probably, and talking to Linda, who the manager who was managing the boiling off, and she'd say, well, this fire's getting too hot. We got to bring this down and, shake those coals out. And then she'd be, working with the tricky balance of boiling off over wood. And that to me is a standout that made the farm unique. It's funny, I've used the word unique quite a few times. It is.
When I was, I think probably, I don't remember the year, but like late 80s, we did like an end of summer kid worker sleepover at the farm, like camp out. And we didn't sleep very much. It was wild and crazy. And the next morning, the police showed up because someone had called for a noise complaint. And at that point, Linda and Martin, who worked there then, were like cooking up pancakes in the new building, which at that point was new, and invited the officers in to have pancakes. And like, they just kind of joined the sleepover morning after.
One of the things was moving the turkeys from one part of the farm to another. And in order to do that, if you're not familiar, is you clap your hands and they're like attracted to that clap. So you're clapping your hands and kind of walking backwards down the pathway that you're leading them to. And so these turkeys, my clapping was like A+, I think, because they were just flocking right towards me. And they weren't sure what I was clapping about, what the commotion was. So they start kind of like pecking me. So here I am surrounded by like the turkey paparazzi. And I'm like, what do I do? So Hildy was with me at the time. And she said, just gently kind of like bop them on the head a little bit. And they won't like that. So they'll back off a little bit. So I was kind of bopping them on the head. And she was trying to like get through the flock to kind of rescue me, to open the gate to get the turkeys in. So everything was fine. I survived. All the turkeys survived. No turkeys were harmed in the, transferring them from one place to the other. But it was, you could tell I was a rookie, and it was pretty funny.
Or your clapping was just too good.
Yeah, let's go with that. I'm just so good at
Just
it.
an excellent clapper.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I guess the one that really stuck with me, which kind of, I guess, was the start of my arborist career. There was a big spruce tree out back by the pig pens, and it doesn't look that big anymore. But but when I was little, we would climb to the top of that tree, and I could see the top of the Hancock and Prudential buildings in Boston on a clear day, and that was very kind of amazed me. Getting to the top of this big spruce and looking all the way over the canopy of all the other trees, and then I think so I guess my favorite part was when I wasn't part of working on the program, I would go out, climb trees, and make forts in the woods, and all sorts of good wholesome kid stuff outside.
At some point, we had a pig in labor at the time I was here, and it was my favorite pig. So I sat with Heather, who was the animal person at the time, and we were just there, and I got to brush her and pet her. She was having her contractions, and each time a little piglet came out, you get to hold it and wipe it in a little rag and make sure it was safe under the heating lamp, and it was so sweet, and they were so little and so cute. But at one point, she kept having these gigantic contractions, and so I'd always check each time, and I checked after one of the contractions and nothing. But then a second later, it was oh my god, there's a piglet, and I was oh my god, there's a piglet. And I was just so shocked that there'd been another one. We thought she was done. But anyway, it just scared me so much because things can it matters so much, new life and making sure everything's perfect for them. But I remember being like, oh my gosh, like, it was probably like the 6th piglet or something by then. Like, you know, I was used to it, but like every time I was like, so shocked. It's so magical. And they're so cute as babies. Like, all you want to do is pick them up and kiss them, and you're like, probably shouldn't do that. Baby immune systems, even though they're like pigs. But
one of my favorite memories is the tradition of sharing kid quotes at the end of our staff meetings. I thought that was such a lovely way to focus on our mission, and, you know, given these quotes are out of the mouths of babes, as they say, often provided some great comic relief. One of the kid quotes I remember most was one I witnessed, so that's probably why I remember it. I was walking back to the farmhouse with one of the forest gnomes, leaving the forest. She really wanted to hold my hand that day, so I let her hold my hand, and she looked up and she said, what were you when you were little? What were you when you were little? And I looked down at her and gave it a beat, and I smiled and I said, I was a kid like you. And, you know, little gnome, she's, you know, probably 4 years old, maybe 5, kind of, you see her putting that together. Okay, this person used to be a kid. What's up with that? And then I will never forget it. She looked over again, and then she said, and then you wished you were a farmer and your dream came true. You know, just these big eyes. Oh, it really, it doesn't get much better than that.
I think in the current state of the world, I think it's really easy to be very cynical and just think everyone's out for themselves and no one really thinks about other people. But this place is just the exact opposite of that. That whether you're a staff member or a volunteer or like a youth who works here or a kid, people here think about other people a lot, and that to me creates a lot of like hopeful moments for the world. Like I know a lot of people think very negatively about the state of the world, but I think this place gives me a lot of hope that there's so much that humans can do to respond to our current situation, whether it's a local situation or a bigger situation, that allows me to think, oh yes, we can do these great things because I've seen it here. I've seen so many people do so many wonderful things here, and I think you can just translate that across.
Everything that I got from Natick made me realize that that was extremely important in my work environment in general, just that aspect of community. I wanted to always make sure that I was around people who cared about the planet, but cared about young people, cared about agriculture, and just cared about taking care of each other. And it was just an example of a place that could function really well because lots of minds fed it and took care of it. And I felt like it was one of the first places, workplaces specifically, where I witnessed that functioning so well. And it just made me really proud to go into work every day and made me really happy to be associated with it.
Well, I have to go with the brain first. I come from a financial background. So coming to a farm, the brain, what I've learned here is on the brain side is I've learned more about municipal government, and I've learned about running a nonprofit. So that's the brain side. The heart side is, oh my gosh, how much contributions each person can make to this farm. And coming from, especially from a financial background, where there's a lot of similarities between the people that work in that sector, there are so many different people here that work at this farm, and the gifts they bring to this farm, from taking the programs from the parents of the kids, from the teen work crew, everything they bring to it is such a gift. And it's just such a positive experience.
Oh my gosh, the teens that I've gotten to work with, they're another component. Just the joy that I get from knowing these folks and being able to be part of their lives as they grew and blossomed into amazing human beings. Like, what a privilege. And that in and of itself is a really valuable component that is part of what builds me as well, is being able to participate in these moments in people's lives. So yeah, it's not, again, any one person out of all of those youth that I worked with, but so many of them collectively coming together and growing into these amazing human beings that I'm so proud to see go out into the world and do what they do.
The young people who end up there, I feel like if they're an older age, they might be kind of searching for a purpose or looking for direction. And I think there's a huge opportunity for them to grow into their own leadership and their own skill set. I feel like it's a place for them to go and feel safe and feel like they belong, just because it's such an open environment and a place where you can kind of grow into any talent. Even if you're great at making posters, you might do that instead of spending a ton of time outside. But you could also learn how to use tools and take care of animals and take care of the land. I feel like there's a lot of ways that a lot of young people can fit in. And if they take advantage of that opportunity, it's a really great safe space for them. And I just think that when young people find that space for themselves, they just tend to really care about it afterward. That was something that really stuck with me, is Natick just seemed to leave this impression on anyone who walked through there. And it was like this responsibility to take care of the place versus, like I said earlier, a place to just work or a place to show up, go at the end of your school day. It was like a place to come and like care about what you did.
It would be very funny the way they'd behave too, because they'd be here maybe a few weeks or a couple of months. Again, no farming experience, but they'd start to sort of walk and talk like farmers.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'd sort of they'd wear overalls and they'd put their thumbs into the straps and say, hey, we think the frost is going to be coming early this year, or we would say that I think it's too early to plant the peas. So they weren't putting it on. They actually started to behave that way.
Yeah.
So it was very sweet,
Yeah.
the way that they plunged right into it. And it was an interesting mix of young people. There were some that really just didn't sort of fit the mold, you might say, within the school, the traditional educational system, and found this as a very worthwhile educational opportunity. You might say it had some therapeutic value to young people in the way that horticulture and working with animals does.
What they got from the farm had a lot to do with the mentors and the people who were guiding them and teaching them and that sort of thing. And the people who ran the farm, it all mattered.
Yes, I did develop that I can say. It's like one of those farm stories, like sometimes we put the carriage in front of the horse. So we got windows delivered, we got windows donated, that's how I recall. And around those windows, the nature center. There was supposed to be a nature center in the woods, just because, Linda, we have the 27 acres, I want to use every piece. And it was always like, how can we use the woods? How can we use the woods for programs? Anyhow, so we built this beautiful nature center, and we're looking at it. This is not a nature center. This is like a Hansel and Gretel house, like what everybody called it, And so I thought, what can we do with the woods? And well, I knew about the wild kindergarten in Europe, and I said, we can do that. And Linda always had the dream of a preschool on the farm, but I could never imagine it because the farm is so busy. There was just no dedicated space for children. And so this was the beauty about the home in the woods, because it was completely its own space, separated. But I had no idea whether this would fly. And I think it was the Spring Spectacular in May, probably 2007 or 8. I just sat up in my little chair and like some posters right in front of the office, and wanted to test the waters if anybody would be interested in a program like that. And I got 4 families who signed up right then, and 3 of them really became the first Forest Gnomes families, and it was amazing. And these were the most dedicated families. They are still connected today, and it's wonderful. Yeah, so I did direct that, although I have no element in early childhood experience, and I was not in the program out, but I administered it. Yes.
I particularly like the idea, the animals, and the way kids can see life cycles, the way kids can see animals raised in a humane way, and I think that that's important. For over 20 years, I would hatch chicks in my classroom, and I will see kids now, and they will say, "Remember the chicks." That's what they remember, so that's important. And I think that one of the things that kids nowadays maybe are missing and really need when they get exposed to this is their exposure to taking care of living things. And that's best done, outdoors, out in the elements, and in ways like this where the animals are healthy and happy. I think that when that happens, they grow up to be kids that respect their environment, and they live in ways that are healthier. I think that they grow up to be hikers. They grow up to be gardeners themselves. They have plants indoors. They grow things in pots if they live in the city, roof gardens and things like that. I think that it's something that it gets inside them, and that's who they are. It helps them identify. That's who they are, and that's how they live in the future. Without it, I don't know how they find that kind of connection. I don't think that I think it's important. I think you are what you do. So when you are young and you're exposed to the farming environment and living sustainably and thinking about clean food and taking care of nature, that you are a better human and a better grown-up.
I love working here. This is the best work environment I've ever really had. It's, you hear a lot of corporations say we're family, and you don't really believe that. But here, everyone genuinely cares about each other, and we care about what we do here. And that's probably, it can be personified as our community lunches on Thursdays. Half the staff will cook, the other half will clean, and people will come in, other farmers from farms down the road and around the state. Our Forest Gnomes families will occasionally stop in. Our own family members will stop in. There's dogs, there's babies, everybody's eating together and laughing together. You could be sitting next to a 12-year-old or an 82-year-old, and everyone's just kind of here together having this great communal meal, which is amazing. We nourish each other, we nourish our community. It's great.
Oh, I like sugaring the most, I guess. It's a uniquely New England or North American event, and it's the first sign of spring. So I enjoyed that. And I have a sweet tooth, too.
It is delicious.
Yeah, it's very good, very unique. Get that from a tree.
Yeah. Did you, when you first started volunteering, did you get involved in the first sugaring season?
Sure.
Yeah.
I started in November, I believe, so the following late winter, I would be involved in helping put out the taps and collecting, and hanging out at the sugar house, helping there.
It's like every day I come here, it's like a whole new adventure. Whether you're learning something new or you're trying to solve something, it's amazing.
My favorite thing to do at the farm is very specific. I love harvesting garlic. That is by far my favorite thing. Although vegetables in general has held a very special place in my heart. And overall, my favorite thing just about the farm is the amount of people I get to meet. I feel like I run into someone new every time I'm here, and that's really incredible. And I've also had the chance to just meet some cool people through the years that have worked here or have been involved with the board or a variety of different like events that we've held. So yeah, it's really the community, and then also harvesting vegetables and garlic in particular.
What is it about garlic?
I don't know, honestly. I think there's a bit of a there's like a routine to it, and it was like hyped up a lot while I was in the younger programs, having like a day of garlic day where we'd go and harvest garlic and then hang it up in the barn. And that was just the excitement around it always was so much fun, and I've like held that excitement today. It's still my favorite. So
my favorite part is the stream that runs through the farm when you first drive in. I think I've always really loved running water, and so when I drove up here the first time, I literally audibly said, oh, there's a stream! And it's really great seeing all the little ducks first thing in the morning, and when it was snowy and icy, it's beautiful. So I think all the water features here are my favorite. They're the most relaxing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably our pastures are my favorite place. Just walking around with all the beautiful tall grass in the middle of the summer, watching the sheep enjoy themselves out there, or the chickens, or whoever's out there that day. That's probably my favorite place.
I think the most valuable experience was for my children. As I said, we homeschooled our children up to high school. And it wasn't from a religious point of view, it wasn't from a point of view of hating school, although that Carol and I had different views than the traditional views about how good it was for kids to go to school. But the farm offered an opportunity for them to come here and take real responsibility for different things at the farm. And also to be with a whole mixture of ages. Because in school you're age segregated. We didn't like that so much. So our children here were working with adults and other people older than themselves, younger than themselves. We thought that type of socialization was very, very healthy for them, and they could look an adult in the eye and have a conversation, as opposed to the normal kids who won't look an adult in the eye and want to do anything but talk to an adult. My kids were very good with that. And as a matter of fact, my youngest Sophie, who's now 36, at age 4, she was leading sugaring tours. I mean, albeit it was probably pretty rudimentary, but she was leading people around the farm, telling about the farm, telling about the sugar shack. And one of your volunteers who may come and talk to you, Jay Ball, is a longtime volunteer. He and his wife Ricky have become kind of surrogate grandparents to my children. And how they met us was that Sophie was doing exactly that. She was kind of walking around giving a little tour at the sugar shack, and she, as a child, she's still very beautiful, but as a child she was stunning. She was talking to Jay and just chatting him up, and Jay is looking at this kid going, who is this child and who are his parents? Who are her parents? And that's how we met. One other thing I will say that I thought the farm was fabulous about, I mean, there's so many things, but because we homeschooled the children, they spent a lot of the growing up time down here, and with Linda's kids, as a matter of fact, Linda Simpkins' kids. But they were also did a lot with the arts. And my girls were dancing in an extension program afternoons up at Walnut Hill School for the Arts here in town. And I would come pick up, I remember particularly Jenny. She would have been mucking out chicken coop, and then she would change into her leotard with her bun on her head, and I'd pick her up. And I just thought that the kind of the juxtaposition of those two things was so good. It was so rounding for her. And that made a huge, that experience of volunteering here made a huge impression on my children. And today they still have just this tremendous warm spot in their heart for the farm.
the experience of lunchtime on the farm is something that will probably stay with me for the rest of my life. Just because, you know, a farm day was really difficult to get through. Sometimes you'd be so tired by the time lunch rolled around. And when I was there, everyone just happened to be an amazing cook. Except for me, I was not good. But I still remember Trisha's hummus. I remember so many meals from that time, not just because everyone was great at cooking, but because it was just like this crucial time of the day where we all just sat together and ate together and talked. And that aspect of the community still stays with me and is something that was like nourishing on multiple levels. And I'll never forget that time together.
The experience that I value the most is the sense of connection within both the team at the farm, and that includes volunteers, board members, and sort of visitors that come, and also a wider connection that the farm has within the Natick, within the town of Natick as well. So just that sense of connection, and part of this project, the thing that I've been learning and hearing about is how the farm, started and how it grew, and like that sense of community, that sense of connection with folks to build the farm to where it is today. Really, I feel like stands true right through to today. So that's a big thing that I value is community. I've always valued that in like where I work, and there's nowhere have I had it greater than here at the farm. And the other experience is seeing young people, really young, kind of 1.5 years old, through to the teen work crew and apprentices, being here and experiencing things that they maybe couldn't elsewhere. And it's like getting your hands dirty again. My first summer of working here, as in this role, being a member of staff, I was fascinated by the teamwork crew, just this kind of group that would move and just be so productive and so, they had this confidence, and they again, that going back to their autonomy, they had, what do we need to do today? And they were self-organizing. And I was just like, these are, these teenagers coming in and doing these amazing projects around the farm. It was like, it was inspiring. That was like a really amazing thing when I first started.
I really appreciate the maple sugaring operation. Because when I first came down here, in an effort to sort of diversify our horticultural programming, I was like, well, yeah, we could do a little maple sugaring. So, and reality hit, and the reality is it doesn't work that well with our school schedule. So, at 2:00, I would find myself kind of abandoned at the evaporator, So I knew I had to work something else out, and I did also know that it was happening here, and it's great. It's something that kids otherwise have virtually no exposure to. So being able to come here and just tie into the experience, help when we can help, has worked out great. And I got a gift this year from a graduating senior, and it was a pint of maple syrup that he had done on his own. So he had been inspired through the process here, his experience here, and he's off and running on his own. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool, and it goes to show you the value of what happens here, and the kid is running with it now.
I would say I think one of the enduring appeals of the farm is not only the sense of peace and connection with the land, connection with farming, with the animals and all the natural beauty, but also a really true sense of community that's here. You feel welcomed, you feel part of it from the minute you walk in. And I think that's what keeps people coming back over the years. I think people leave and then they seem to come back always over the years, as I did. And I think that's what draws people in. It's a truly kind-hearted place.
The benefit and the importance of the farm was totally brought forward when the barn burned down, and everybody got upset. And you realized how far-reaching that was in the community. And many, many people really appreciate being able to get local produce, local maple syrup, and to be able to come and see animals, and that the farm is open and available and nearby. And I'm still always telling people in Natick, have you ever been to the Natick Community Organic Farm? And they're like, no, where's that? So I'm still telling people to go, and especially with little kids, go see the animals. So the animals are a big draw, but then I think once you get here, there's so many other things that pull you in.
When I was a kid, I was just really looking for more authenticity than I felt like I was getting, like playing hockey and playing sports and going to public school, and that's fine. But I wanted, like, I spent a lot of time on my family's farm, and that was really interesting. There was like interesting out of the box stuff, and I think that the farm gives. I can only speak to my experience, but for me it was so special because I was like this interested, developing young person. And I was like, I want to learn about axes. I want to learn about old tools and old buildings and old people and old ways of doing things and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't know where to learn about this. I have no idea. And then I found the Natick Farm, and it's its own resource. It's a connection to other resources. And it gives, it gives kids the opportunity to figure out what they want to do within this context. I think that was super valuable.
Education. And education is key. Education is power. I come from, I was a resident of Natick all my life, but now that I moved to Connecticut, Connecticut is a lot. It has everything around me, which is cow farming and agriculture. And I think now in today's, I will tell you, in today's world, agriculture and farming is extremely important. But back then, it wasn't so prevalent for farming. But I believe when people such as yourself stick to and educate today's kids about farming and sustainability, I believe that is the future. And if anything, I learned, again, knowledge is power, and being able to feed the community and help the kids in the community learn about agriculture. I mean, you can become a doctor and a lawyer, but they have to eat too.
Oh my gosh, I feel like every community should have a local farm where everybody can go, and especially the children, so they can grow up on it, and they need to learn. We need more farmers, and nobody's going into farming. It's scary. It's all commercial ag, and we need to do small-scale regenerative farms. It's the only way we're gonna fix this climate emergency, if you want to call it, or all that. But it's just such a healthy way of life, and people get to learn where their food comes from. And, it's so good for, like, starting out on the farm so young. I learned where everything came from, all the meats and all the vegetables, and I got to experience that, and I got to grow all of it, and it's a very healthy lifestyle. And yeah, I feel like every community should have a local farm.
The big draw should be the education. I mean, any farm can produce products. You know, every farm does. That's kind of what they do. But the education part is absolutely huge. And then being able to meet new friends. I mean, I think I don't know if I was in the teen work crew yet, but Lynn Smyrney ended up moving into the farm, and he, to this day, I mean, he came to my wedding. He's one of my best friends. We bonded at the farm. We became amazing friends. I'm friends with Zane. Their mother's a sweetheart. And then Alex. And so meeting, the social aspect is extremely important too. I mean, Ethan Higgins, I think is his last name. I haven't seen him in the longest time, but he was definitely a friend and a role model, whether he realized it or not. because I always kind of looked up to him, because what he was, I don't know, he was always seemed to be like the leader of the cruise, and then until he left, and then I kind of took over. But yeah, so the social aspect is extremely important too, but the education, I would say that's the huge part.
So probably the events that we go to, the events that we put on. I really enjoy Maple Magic, Farm Fest. I participated in both last year. They were just so fun. I really enjoyed them. The farmers market I've also done, which is also really fun. It's a really cool opportunity. You get to meet a lot of fun faces down in downtown Natick. I've gone to at least one convention with Haley, which was also really awesome. It's kind of how we sparked a lot of connections, actually, now that I think back to it. Yeah, so I think the events that we put on and attend are kind of like the biggest community aspects.
I think it's how unique this place is, and the what it offers to anybody, any age, anywhere you live. Doesn't matter if you're in Natick or not. The education that it gives all ages, all year round, and it's open to the public. It's free, and this has just changed. You know how much the community in this surrounding loves this place because it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And it's amazing. It's terrific. And, you know, my partner did the barn with his son after the fire. He's entrenched. They're all entrenched now. It just keeps going. So it's, even my siblings are, every time they used to come to house and they go, we're going to the farm. So it just offers a lot to the community.
Yeah.
Just come, put your hands in the soil. You won't leave.
One thing that I've learned is we worked with a halfway house for women in Natick at the time, and one or two other programs for kids with special needs. And I discovered the power of agriculture, horticulture, all those activities as a therapeutic tool. And actually, I went back to UMass for a special program after that, in between my 2 times in Natick, for a degree in horticultural therapy. So, and that's thanks to the Natick Community Organic Farm.
I've learned so much here, and one of the best parts of working at the farm is you get to be a little bit involved in everything. You're occasionally helping out with livestock as needed, or helping out with flowers, or working with programs, just the different departments, and getting a little bit of everything. I think one thing I've really taken away from my time here is just a greater appreciation for nature and the seasons. I used to really hate the winter, and now I see so much beauty and so many interesting things in the winter with, maple sugaring and just getting outside in all seasons and really appreciating that there's something new and different and beautiful all year round.
The thing that stands out without a question is work ethic. Like that is the thing that is the top of my list. Just like how to be in, I don't want to say a professional environment, but like how to work hard and how to get things done. Working under Mark and working under Linda, it was, there was no other option. You worked hard, or you weren't there. And I don't think I can overstate how well that served me in my, in my schooling and then ultimately professional life. Just like the mindset of going in, getting instructions and getting a job done, and being, I guess the thing I would rank second to that would be being adaptable. To be a successful farmer, to be successful in a lot of things, you have to be adaptable, and you have to, be willing to kind of pivot on a dime when you meet some sort of a challenge. And in farming, we do that every day. We do that every hour. It's happening all the time. Best laid plans, you know how they go. So the Natick farm, I think more than most other farms that I've worked on, was really navigated like little challenges really well with really limited resources. And that is something that I carry with me all the time and I think about all the time.
I learned a lot on the farm. I think a big one is just the community, and I know that's very big there. It's called the community farm, but just how everyone comes together like that, and what that kind of community is like, because you don't really get that anymore these days. It's very it's its own little bubble, really, you know. So I think that was very cool, and I don't think I could have learned that anywhere else without being in the South or some farm area. You know, it's very cool to be able to have that experience. That was definitely a big one that I learned there.
I would say the thing that I've learned more than anywhere else on the farm, and I don't think I could have learned anywhere else, is the type of thinking on your feet that you have to do.
Oh.
Like, not something's gone wrong, but plants have changed, reorganize, and do that new thing effectively. I think that I wouldn't have learned anywhere else, and that has been invaluable in my everyday life.
On that, like, thinking on your feet, like, so many times I have had to, like, just grab an animal, because I saw that the fence was open, and I just had to be like, well, that could go really badly, so, oh god! I think that was really, really useful, and I couldn't have learned that in any other setting.
Yeah, of course the thinking on your feet, but the habits that make things go well.
Yeah.
Learning how to do those things, but then also, like, knowing when something is going wrong is helpful and, again, invaluable.
Very.
Yeah.
Probably just, like, how much can be done in such a small space, because it is a very compact farm, smaller than other farms I had been on in the past, but with more happening. Seeing how we were able to make, you know, education programs and visitors able to visit, you know, during open hours, and actually produce a lot of food and have a CSA and have all of these variety of animals, was pretty impressive with such a small staff. So I think kind of getting the experience of seeing how the business works on the business end, as well as being out in it with the programs and the visitors, and kind of the changing of animals coming in and going out and building new, you know, improving what infrastructure we already had. That was a really unique experience that, yeah, I definitely have drawn on since my time has ended on the farm. So.
Tell all your friends, tell everybody you know. There's like, I still in high school as like a senior, I would be sitting in class with kids who live in Natick, and I'd be like, yeah, I work on the farm, and they'd be like, what farm? I'd be like, the Natick Community Organic Farm. It's by Memorial School. They're like, the what? It's like, oh my god, like, you, like, people come visit. Tell everybody you know. And yeah, I just, or like seeing kids who are like, can I go in there? And I'm like, if you sign up for camps, absolutely you can. So yeah, it just, that like spreading the word is just like such an important thing to do, because like word of mouth is like the best recommendation you can get. Like anytime someone recommends something to me, I remember it. And then when I'm in the area, I'm like, oh, like I should go to this place. Someone told me about this place. And so like, that's like the way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's where I was looking back at some of the previous interviews, and one thing that really stood out to me was Hildy, and she mentioned she's always so surprised by people who haven't heard of the farm. So if you're watching this, just tell your friends. It's such a great experience. It's free. You can turn up any day of the year. You can see animals, you can see vegetables growing or not growing. If it's in winter, you can go and peek through the windows of their greenhouse. Maybe there's produce there. It's a great place to just come and get outside, see things happen, see where your food comes from, and be a part of Natick and the wider community. So please, if you're watching this, tell your friends, forward this Instagram post to someone else. The farm is great. If you haven't been here, you need to be here and just see it for yourself. It's magic.
I think that it evolves with the
everybody's input, that it doesn't become something apart from the whoever is participating in it. I don't want to just say the people that it serves, but what is the community? Who are the people to come into it? Who are the people that find that connection to it? And how can they be part of the evolution of it? I think that's what community is building.
I hope that people, especially of my age and younger, can continue to grow up here and use this place as a way of really expressing themselves and becoming themselves in life.
I hope in the next 50 years, more kids can be in the programs and learn about agriculture and farming and everything here. And we can get like new animals, and like it becomes a bigger thing in the community too, with like everyone. And yeah.
I hope more people find it, more people have access to it. It's just been so invaluable for our family. Personally, I'd love to drive a tractor.
I think I really hope for the farm that it just continues to be such an integral part of the community, and that more people come and discover it, because it's here for everyone. I cannot put into words what it's meant to our family and what it's meant to growing up our boys here. And just to have that connection in the community that lets everyone really explore what it is to be caretakers is just priceless.
I'm hoping that in the next 50 years, Casey and Haley cave and we get a donkey.